Welcome back. A new poll of voters from Quinnipiac University shows a majority are blaming President Trump for the government shutdown. 56% of registered voters think Trump and the Republican Party is at fault, while 36% blame Democrats. Voters also largely oppose shutting down the government in order to force funding for Trump's wall, 63% to 32%. By a 2-to-1 margin. Voters are backing a Democratic proposal to reopen parts of the government that do not involve border security while negotiating funding for the wall. When asked who they trust more to secure the border, 49% of Americans say Democrats in Congress, compared to 44% who say they trust President Trump. Now, asked to weigh the president's Oval Office speech, only 2% of voters say it changed their mind about building the wall, while 89% say it did not change their mind. Let's bring in White House correspondent for Reuters, Jeff Mason. And I guess my question, Jeff, would be, how much is the president and his staff depending on polls? Throughout the campaign, he used to whip them out of his pocket on a piece of paper and read them to a fevered audience and have them cheer for these polls. Are they looking at these? Do they care? Because you would think they would respond in kind.
Well, it's a good question, Mika, and one thing that the president has also done, in addition to watching polls, is he will dismiss polls that are not favorable to him. He's certainly done that in the past, right, and is probably doing something similar right now. But one of the big questions for government shutdowns, previous ones as well as this one, is where does the blame game end up landing? And this poll that you just cited, as well as others that we've seen, including from Reuters, Ipsos, and the Washington Post as well, have suggested that that trend continues to be that more and more Americans are blaming the president and blaming Republicans.
Yeah.
And you know, Susan Page, a more conventional president would look at these numbers, would look at his personal approval numbers, like the ones we've seen over the last few days that show him in the high 30s, and say, something's got to give, I've got to do something differently. This president, however, is digging in. He says there's no deal without the $5.7 billion for the wall, and that's that. He seems to enjoy the fight despite what the numbers show.
You know, I think the president has always been focused from the beginning on his core supporters and has made minimal effort to kind of expand his support to others. So you look at, he is in some ways happy with the 34%, the third of Americans who stick with him no matter what, who support his strategy on this, who will stand with him. And, you know, if you think about it, this is the strategy that has gotten him to where he is. And if you think the White House might be concerned over the long term about impeachment, remember this. President Trump's job is safe in impeachment if he can hold 34 Republican senators. So his core support is, in fact, the thing that got him to the White House and could keep him there if the very worst happens for the White House.
Hey, so Rick, I ask you, I'm now I'm running out of scenario planning here. Like, how does this end?
I'm beginning to think more and more it ends that Congress comes up with a veto-proof solution to end the shutdown.
But driven by who? By what? I mean, what's the? Yes, I mean, I totally imagine that.
No,
but
it'll be public opinion. I mean, bring up that poll where we have 2% of the people were changed. That is a remarkable number. You could the president of the United States getting on national television could convince 5% of the population that the Earth is flat.
But isn't it the
case? But he cannot convince. But 2% move. It's unbelievable.
I totally get that, but again, I think that it's, on some level, the notion that the shutdown has to end at some point, yes. The Congress taking the control, the president's so dug in, it's hard to imagine that the president capitulates.
I agree with that.
So at some point, McConnell would have to lead.
He has to.
What is the thing that causes, given that McConnell has not moved 1 inch, what's the thing that pushes him? What poll number? What's the mechanism that drives McConnell to buckle?
It has to be what it always is. It's constituents complaining to senators day in and day out, where the senators can't sustain the pain anymore, and they go to their leader saying, "We are bleeding. You have to stop the bleeding, and we've got to check this president, reopen the government, and figure out a way to say we're still for border security." The other number that's remarkable is Democrats are winning on border security. Think about what the president has done. He's talked all about border security since the beginning of his campaign, and now all of a sudden more people trust the Democrats to secure the border than the president. It's incredible.
He's managed to take his own issue away from himself by sticking to that issue.
If you look at the front page of the New York Times, this is illegal immigration. It starts with The Clinton administration is when illegal immigration peaks. It goes down through the Bush administration all the way. This is the Obama administration. And this is the Trump administration. Way down here. These are record lows. So the president should go out every day and say, I'm winning. Look at this. Instead, he's got this big phony crisis at the border.
So the phony crisis and now this shutdown, which is a real crisis. Rick Tyler, I want to pile on you here a little bit, though. If Mitch McConnell can't budge, if he's too conflicted, maybe because his wife works in the administration, I don't know what at this point would be incentivizing him to stand by the president in this, given that bipartisan solutions have come to the president's desks before. So isn't it a matter of bypassing the president? And doesn't it just take 3 Republicans to do that? Like, why can't we find these people? Who are the Republicans who actually understand this does not end well? Do we all need to wear T-shirts saying this doesn't end well for you, members of the Republican Party? Why can't we find 3 Republicans so that Congress can bypass the president? Explain the process. Isn't it possible that they could do it without him? End it?
Absolutely, they could do without it, and that's what co-equal branch is all about. As I understand, there is a bipartisan group of moderates meeting in the Senate who are trying to come up with some sort of negotiated deal, working around their leader. I don't understand Leader McConnell's theory that he's not going to present the president a bill unless he's got assurances that he's going to sign it. How would he know if the president's going to sign it anyway? Because the president has consistently undermined himself, undermined his negotiators, undermined the vice president, cutting his negotiating legs out from under, sends him up to Congress, is not even allowed to talk numbers. So what's the purpose of that? So McConnell's got to figure out, we've got to take this way to the president. The president can't solve it. He's dug in. The country's with the Democrats on this wall business. So just the president unfortunately doesn't know how to lose. But remember, George Bush declared with all his political capital that he was going to privatize Social Security accounts, something that I supported, but he lost, and he figured out how to lose and move on. Bill Clinton, who couldn't pass what was known as Hillary Care at the time, figured out he couldn't win, he didn't have the votes, lost, and moved on. Donald Trump cannot figure out how to take a loss and move on.
I'm telling you, if they could find 3, get something passed, it's called bullying him back. I think they could figure out the override. They've just got to step up to him. We'll talk about this more, about what the options are to try and end this shutdown without the president. Jeff Mason, thank you very much.
Pleasure. And
still ahead on Morning Joe, Congressman Steve King gets stripped of his committee assignments after the latest in a career full of racist remarks. The Washington Post's Eugene Robinson is asking this morning, why are Republicans suddenly outraged over Steve King's racism? Gene joins us ahead with his latest column. Morning Joe is coming right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.